Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to Restaging the Readymade open forum session. I'm Nathaniel Stern. We have speaking jonCates. As many recent scholars have pointed out, there's been a conflation between the found object and the ready-made, where the latter was actually famously defined by Duchamp as a rendezvous. More than just a found object, it's an encounter. Media artist and theorist jonCates will navigate cultural territories of the always already ready-made through the lens of art games, which often involve the creative reuse, repurposing, sampling, sharing, and or modification of elements from existing digital games.
This is not going to be so much a linear talk that begins in one place and goes somewhere else, as much as it's going to be a series of little interruptions. Or so said Sandy Stone when she explained what vampires know. This morning I will be explaining a bit of what I think, feel, I understand about Duchamp and digital culture in the context of new media art. Let me begin by saying, mayhaps we are all, always, already made. Mayhaps we are all, always, already made within the horizons, or rather, the magic circles of art games made original through appropriation, alteration, or in the language of game culture, modification.
There, little one. Don't worry. Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand.
Mayhaps we have now come to know ourselves as our experiences modulated through modifications of always already made by computer witchcraft, by which I mean it may be inconceivable to me to be time-stamped digitally before 1917. Since 1917, I have been playing an art game of art as game, or mayhaps, as Cornelia Solfrank says, I aspire to hacking art as an operating system, or mayhaps, as Jake Elliott and I have said, imagine an artistic identikit called Art Craxor, a script kiddie who can copy-paste into discourses, or elite-speaking hacksaw who finds appropriate applications of ingenuity, whether the result is a quick and dirty patchwork job or a carefully crafted work of art. You have to admire the cleverness that went into it, if we are to believe my quotation from the meaning of hack, from the collectively authored Cool Code classic, The Jargon File, maintained by Eric S. Raymond. But then the phrase, an appropriate application of ingenuity, is an abstract and immaterial characterization of hacking that is not necessarily consistent with the flattening effect produced by the phrases quick and dirty patchwork and carefully crafted. The ingenuity characterization, even as applied, functions to protect the sanctity of the term hack from self-influence by its own material complications.
Glitching has actually always already been ready-made.
Its dirtiness, its illegibility, its complexity, and potential criticality. It is as if there is a characterization of hacking that is always already marginalized, a material characterization. It is hacking inside out, transgressive, and also destabilizing. It is as if there is a characterization of Duchamp that is always already marginalized, a material characterization. It is Duchamp, inside out. The concept of the always already made has challenged the differentiation process and has thus transformed the rules of art as game. From the sacred to the profane and mayhaps the reverse, and back again, art games emerging from a data bending of the rules of play, glitching a widening of the playing fields to include all available digital objects as processes and object-oriented programming as an approach to approaches of source codes, languages which result from industrialization processes from production of knowledge. As I paraphrase remixologically, appropriate the material of theory, a critical discourse on, quote, the rendered arena, modalities of space and video, computer games by Alex Stockberger, 2006. Lewis Carroll and Marcel Duchamp. Kurt Cloninger has written, all art has always already been remix art. Cloninger continues by stating, the question is not, are you a remix artist? The question is, what is the quality of your remix practice? How rigorously and intentionally are you engaged in the remix process? When I began a discussion of the media art histories of art games, I similarly state the question is not, are games art any more than the question, are toilets art? Neither question matters. Neither question has any meanings to me. Mayhaps these questions are always already unmade meaningful. Now, like so many unmade beds, slept in by promiscuous pasts of Duchampian origin, in which no master-copy relationship makes any sense anymore. To imagine the future, we should perhaps start from the more or less recent past, which seems to us today to begin with Duchamp, the always already made, in 1975. The old analog era master-copy relationship is now always already made meaningless by born digital cultures post-1975, in which computer witchcraft can craft spells of instantiation rather than copying. We exist in multiple instances or instantiations, multiplicities, modularities, remixological forms, capable of thinking several moves ahead, producing art processes in which the reproduction of the remixer as artist is the recognition for the recognition of these object-oriented instantiations as always already made reworks of art. Or to misread or mayhaps remix, new media art projects become a continuum of transmutable codes. As I think, feel through Mark America's term, the meta-medium mystic, I am considering a computational remix of Duchamp for his Remix the Book project. I remember myself saying the medium then becomes a question of interpretation as raw materials for further remixological adventures in 2005. Alive and well from 1975 to 30 plus. The remixological indicates a logic of remix, that all digital media is remixological. A language of remixology is the science of continuation and the art of drastic remaking, or total remaking, as Kudo-shun said somewheres, like mayhaps in an argument always already made in 1999, when he published and enshrined in words that sang a song more brilliant than the sun, Adventures in Sonic Fiction. Duchamp so often claimed, and so often reclaimed by so many of us in so many discourses, that seek to assert or establish theory practices that we see as resistant, as transgressive, as under-recognized, as outside, alternative in conceptual or cultural or even material technological terms. Duchamp often invoked seriously and ceremoniously for our digital cultures, our great-great-grandfather in art historical genealogies of justifications for our current crisis in digital cultures. Anonymousness, unattributed appropriation, wholesale, sold for free, a sourcelessness of rampant reproductions, frictionless slippage. These games played in new media art contexts. Games of frictionless slippage of the outmoded concepts of copies, neither copied right nor wrong. Christiana Paul invokes Duchamp in her digital art from 2003. minus 40 years early, 1963, authorized replicas of Duchamp's work, signed and dated, are produced by Ulf Lind in Stockholm, Sweden. The authentication, the authorization of copying, of copies for which there exist no masters. With object-oriented programming, once you have specified how an object is composed, you can instantiate as many objects of that kind as you need. The class object is like a factory for creating objects. Creating a new object is called instantiation, and the object is the instance of the class. When you print an instance in Python, for instance, you tell Python that that class belongs to and where it is stored in the memory. What does it mean to operate within these memories, within these media art histories? Somehow, sometimes, always, already made, and applied, mayhaps, appropriately and/or inappropriately to contemporary crises. To operate within these memories, these contexts, to create copies, or rather, more correctly stated, to create instantiations of these operations, to play these art games, or rather, these games with art, or rather, this art as games. Firstly, the relationships in digital art between copies and originals should be reconsidered as being between instantiations, versions, and updates. Therefore, creating instances of options, of modularities, of experiences which are malleable, open to revision, to rendezvous, to remix, and instantiation. To recreate the relationships in software art, or rather, mayhaps, in art games, always already made.
Are there any other questions or comments from the audience?
What is time?